My name is Amanda Coolidge, and I am the Vice President of Strategic Engagement and Growth at Pressbooks. And it is my privilege to be able to introduce you today to a wonderful conversation with Dr. Norm Vaughan from Mount Royal University in Calgary, Alberta, and Mpoentle Modise from the University of South Africa. And it is so wonderful to have them both here today to talk to us about what does collaboration mean, especially when it's coming from across borders. This was an interesting project that they'll get us started on talking about their work in digital resilience of ePortfolios, sort of these lessons learned that they found from the pandemic. And I'm really excited to have them walk us through this project, share a little bit about what they did and how they came to do such great collaboration. I will follow it with some questions, and then we're going to open it for Q&A to anybody who'd like to join us. If you do have some questions that you want to pose to the panel, please do put those questions in the Q&A chat. And then feel free to also use the webinar chat here just to talk to each other or throw in some insights. I'll be monitoring both. All right, I will pass it over to our panelists to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amanda, for having us. Press Book Around the World. We're going to start now, and you'll hear more about the Pressbooks. It's a wonderful, wonderful platform. My name is Mpoentle Modise, and of course, I'm with my wonderful mentor, friend, co-editor, and yeah. Prof. Dom, you want to say hi quickly before I continue?
I do. And again, that's the key to collaboration. And we'll just we'll talk a lot about our lessons learned as we go through this. Because again,
Yeah.
it's been wonderful to be part of the Pressbooks family, and we'll explain how that was part of the picture as well.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. So, colleagues, I've got a little bit of flu. Those who know will hear that my voice is not 100% itself. So I'm just going to do introduction now, and please allow me, Amanda, just to, close my video so that you don't see me, working my face out, please. Thank you so much. So today we're going to look at, our journey. First, we're going to look at our journey, and then we're going to go through the whole process. Prof. Norm will go with you through the process, how we got our hands and fingers dirty. I'm going to do the nice ones. I'm just going to tell you how we met and why all this ePortfolios borders. Why do we think it's important for us to pause and talk about it? Yes, Prof, next slide, please. Thank you so much. So ePortfolios, colleagues, why ePortfolios in education? Why do we bother? Why do we even bother about it? Honestly, because we know that, when you've got a grade, it tells you what a student has scored. It tells you the student's marks. But an ePortfolio tells you who is a student becoming. And I'm sure Prof. Norm will tell you about it, identity formation. And so we live in a world that, is sort of, it's changing faster than our curriculum, can keep up with. And we know that employers also don't just want qualifications. I mean, it's easy, anybody can get a qualification, but they are looking for evidence of thinking and growth, adaptability, and resilience, which is very important. So the ePortfolio is exactly that. That's why we are bothered. That's why we think it's important for us to tell the stories from 6 continents, from 85 authors. So an ePortfolio is exactly that. It's a living, curated record of learner's journey, not just an assessment tool. It's a whole beautiful, fun platform, and not just their best work, but their reflection on what they have done, the struggles, the revision, and the breakthroughs. There's a lot of benefits of ePortfolios. I see that Prof. Norm has already went to the next next slide, but it's fine. So And especially in distance learning environment, I think it's important, Prof. Nom, that I just a little bit more here. Students who never sit in a physical environment or physical classroom environment, they study between shifts, between children's bedtimes. I was just telling Amanda now that I'm busy with my daughter grade 4 exam, June exam, so I need to do grade 4 work now in between as a distance learner. So an e-portfolio becomes something that is even more powerful because it's that kind of a mirror that keeps saying to you, look how far you have come. And we'll say more. We'll say more. It says your story counts as evidence, not just the marks, the whole of you. So how did me and Prof. Nom meet? We met through the Commonwealth of Learning ODL Practitioner Mentorship Program in 2023. So we are in 2026. It's about 2.5 years or so. And we have really done well for ourselves, Prof. No. The one thing between us was the mutual research interest in the use of ePortfolio in teacher education, both of us. And so the collaboration on international research projects, including webinars and all that, came after that. We had to go through a process of selection process. And I must say, because of ePortfolios in the African context, I see it's not that much compared to the Northern colleagues in the North. And I was worried if I'll find a mentor that is interested specifically in ePortfolios. I even went to the Commonwealth of Learning program director, Prof. Yako, and asked him, can I choose a mentor for myself? But just a day later, Prof. Nom's email came in and said, Mpoentle, I'm happy to work with you. So Prof, you can go continue. And since then, we have produced one article and we have produced this book that has brought us here that Amanda said, we want to hear more about your work, Mpoentle and Nom. And between 2023 and today, we've gone through meetings, online meetings, webinars that we were invited to Nigeria. We went to Rwanda. We met first in person in Rwanda. We've been to podcasts with Karina Hopner from Mahara and Abel. And we've done all this and we are doing this. We are here today. And thanks, Amanda, again. I think, Prof, this is where I'm going to. Oh, by the way, our mentorship, our collaboration even featured on the Commonwealth of Learning's newsletter in 2024 because they realized that what Prof. Norman and Poentla are doing is quite unique. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof. Over to you.
Okay. So as they say, it really does take a village to raise a child, or it takes a village to create a book. And again, I think you can hear the passion in M. Puente's voice. And my gosh, it's just, we are going to work on future projects. I miss the collaboration, her energy, the way to move it forward. And she said, we're doing all this. There's so many other people doing something. Could we do a book? Could we be the editors? And I'll be honest, in my heart, I'm young, but I am getting old. I'm getting grumpy. And I've done a few books in the past, and I've come up with challenges. I've worked, and I'm not going to mention any names. I've worked with great people, universities, corporate publishers, but there always seems to be a cost. I had to get grants, I had to get money. Then the time. Again, I have to be careful, but my gosh, especially in the world of ed tech, it seems some of these books, it's 2 or 2.5 years before the book's online or it's in print. And by that time, things have changed, stuff like that. And the last issue, and especially I think in the world we live in, especially with M. Puente, the open access is you create these things and then even the online one, they're behind firewalls and things like that. So those were the three challenges that I was really concerned about. But again, I'll be honest, I'd heard a little bit about Pressbooks, but not a lot. But we have a wonderful community in Alberta. So I'm going to start with my mentor over on the left-hand side. This is an incredible woman, Paula McDowell. She used to be at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. She's now at the University of Saskatchewan. And Paula is amazing. Every undergrad course, every graduate course she teaches, the students create their own press book. They have a big celebration. She's got a deal with the University of Saskatchewan Press. So not only is it online, they get a beautiful printed version when it comes out. So Paula was sort of when I had questions like design, and I should mention as well, M. Puente has the most amazing husband. Nolan is a graphic artist. So when you see, we'll talk about the cover, how it resonated with me, maybe not so much with M. Puente. The second person I want to mention, the key person, is Eric Christensen. So he was one of the drivers behind Open Ed Alberta. And it's wonderful. We actually have, again, not everybody, but a membership. We actually have a provincial membership for Pressbooks. And Eric is sort of the lead in behind that. So we had Paula, we had Eric, and I'll explain. Eric was the one pushing with deadlines. And then one of the most important people, and I want to mention that Taylor is the copyright queen, not the copyright police. And I think most of you have more, and I know Amanda, especially with her work in BC, it's really fascinating how you can work collaboratively together to celebrate other people's work, but you're doing it in a good ethical way in terms of, and there's Creative Commons license. But I want to give my first lesson learned. Do not bring your copyright advisor in at the end of the project. Begin them at the beginning. Because again, 43 chapters, 85 authors. Taylor spent 2 weeks full time, bless her heart, because everybody at my institution wanted this book out. But the challenges, and I think the book ends up being about 730 pages. So it was a little bit. So again, it takes a village to create a press. If you're going to do international, bring in the key people. There are resources. I know Amanda and Jen can hook us up with other people. There's probably people on this call that could help each other, but you're part of the Pressbook family. So there's another thing. I think it's Joseph Joubert. To teach is to learn twice. So it was fascinating. Crash training on Pressbooks. And I think I'm getting this right. I think Pressbooks is built on the WordPress thing. So for me, at the basic level, it was really easy for me to get at. But again, who's the mentor, who's the mentee? M. Puente is really good with coding and HTML. So she was able to go in and really finesse our press book as well. But again, I know, Amanda, Jen, I know you do webinars, but I'm going to give myself a little credit. We actually learned to do it on, and again, experiential learning. It was so powerful. So here's what we did. And again, I'm just going to talk about the applications. I'm trying to be agnostic. It could be Microsoft. Just the institution I'm at, we have a Google license. So again, you want to make sure that you're in a secure environment. I will talk about, you want to make sure the peer review is anonymous. So for better, not worse, we use Google applications throughout it. So again, M. Puente was the driving force here. She's the one who put out the call, and it's wonderful. We learned there's all kinds of international portfolio organizations. Actually, a kudos. M. Puente next week is going to be a keynote speaker at one of those. So it was fascinating how it went all over because I was going, are we going to get, is this two of us? Or are there only two of us interested in ePortfolios? And in the end, we had 73 abstracts submitted. And again, we did this through Google Forms just because at my institution, we could do it. Eric helped us create the Pressbook account. And then what we did throughout the February, we sorted through them. We looked at our initial themes and we kept going with Pressbooks. Every month we had deadlines about things we wanted to learn. Eric was always there to help and sort of gently moving us forward. We had a deadline. We wanted to get this done in 9 months because there was an open access week in Alberta, and we wanted to make sure we could present this book. It was partly marketing too. Eric wanted more people using Pressbook for, textbooks and stuff at our institution. So we figured if Norm can do this, anybody could do it. So January, February, getting things ready. In the end, we accepted 47 abstracts for full chapters, resorted our themes. April, I really give our authors credit. They were ready. Again, you could sense their passion, and they already had something to go. And we'll talk different from motivations for why they wanted to publish. The first chapters got submitted in Word. And then what we'll do, I've got a screenshot later on. I actually do give Google a little credit. So we had sort of a master folder for the whole book. Then we had 43 individual folders, and I'll show you what was in that. Then we started the peer review in June. Then some people, unfortunately, timing that we tried to be as empathetic, get it through, but the horses were out galloping. If you're with us, it's done. So in the end, 43 chapters ready. Um, they revised it. We'll show you the documentation table. We had 2 peer reviews for each. Again, a shout out when you see our book, we had some people that went over the top because we needed the 2 peer reviews. We'll explain why in a minute. For publication, also for people's documentation at their home institutions. So really, Rita, I won't mention their names here, but we had some authors that went above and beyond. They actually reviewed five, some of them 5 or 6. We did it. We did the preprints, sent them out. They reviewed to make sure everybody was good. And then October, working with our people, we made sure that we had all the copyright, all the accessibilities, and then boom, we pushed the publish button, and it was exciting. So this comes up on your screen. So this is what every folder. So this would have been chapter 21. So at the bottom, you can see they would have submitted the original thing, the original manuscript. And then we had the 2 peer reviews. And then what they did, and kudos to M. Puente, not only did they submit the revised manuscript, they were required to have a revision table so we could clearly see they made the revisions. Then based on that, we put a preprint document out to them, like, this is your final chance. Like, once you go through, it's print. But again, I'm just wonderful with M. Puente. People move it. I'm teasing Jen and Amanda. Amanda and Jen, these are living books. People move around. So even though the book's officially published, people change email addresses and things like that. We can go in and continue to do that. Okay. Um, M. Puente, over to you. No, wait, before it is, don't you love that cover? We're talking about resilience. Do you see that plant coming through the concrete? When I saw this, and again, this is the work of an amazing man, Nolan and Puente. He is amazing. Oh my gosh, what a guy! But I'll be honest. I think M. Puente is something greater. But when I think of resilience, just Amanda and I, Amanda, cat out of the box. We work together in Calgary and things like that. But whenever I hike in the Rocky Mountains, it always amazes me how these trees can go in the cracks. So M. Puente, it's over to you now.
Yes, thank you so much, Prof. Norm. People may know that I actually didn't like this design at the beginning, and I fought with my husband before I showed. And then I showed it to Prof. Norm, and he just fell in love with it. I was so embarrassed to tell him that I didn't like it. And then he gave me all this beautiful story behind how he sees, that beautiful small plant coming through the cracks and how it relates to resilience and all that. And as we always say, the rest is history. So thank you so much, Prof.
Okay, next slide here. You go for
Yes.
it.
Yes, so as Prof has given how the outline of what we were doing and getting ourselves in with our contributors, which we are greatly thankful towards, because without them this book would not have happened. So we had 7 interconnected themes, and built around building digital resilience. We've got 6 chapters in that one, and then we've got one that was looking at navigating challenges, during the COVID-19 pandemic, and also looking forward, taking those challenges and putting them as to what do we do from here, and also rethinking assessment again. ePortfolios are tools for authentic assessment. They are tools for assessment. As much as I believe that they are more than assessment tools, but originally, as we would know the history, they were created specifically for assessment purposes. And then we've got design for impact, designing ePortfolios for impact. I would really encourage you, if you haven't seen the book, if you haven't read the book, go in, just choose one chapter from each theme and go through it and assess it for yourself. And then the 5th theme there was empowering educators, where we talk about teacher education, teacher development, how then we can help with skills and resources and everything, and making sure that they're using ePortfolios properly for themselves and for their learners. Lifelong learning. You cannot talk about ePortfolios and not talk about lifelong learning and reflection. There's no way. Otherwise, you'll fight with Mpoente. So we looked at professional development through ePortfolios there in that theme. And then we had the last theme where the colleagues there, or rather the authors, were looking at now that we have unpacked the design, the challenges, and all this, what then, how do we then look forward? And there was one chapter there that also even touched on AI and ePortfolios. Very interesting. Thank you, Prof.
And I will go to the next slide, but I want to interject because it has
Mhm,
been, I mean, for me, exciting. And I think for all of you with Pressbooks, this is what it's all about, shared resources. So when we've done this, it's been really exciting because we've often had authors with us. And it's exciting to hear how people are using different chapters,
mhm,
maybe not the whole book because it's 43, but
mhm.
using different chapters with their students and also getting ideas to how they'll work together. So Mpoente, again, I'm going to use you as an example. Mpoente deals, they're called modules or courses in the University of South Africa. She has thousands of students in modules. So
Mm.
it was really neat how people are excited to problem solve or work with her. Remember that? I think it was Sonoma State. That woman from Northern California really wants to do it. Okay, we'll keep moving. M. Puente and I love to talk, and especially when we can't really see the
That
audience.
that
Okay,
that
okay,
that is
on to the next
something that
slide.
also is wonderful about the two of us. We'll be having a meeting, and Prof. Norm will start asking me about my husband and children, and same here, and it's beautiful because it was something for me. Prof. Norm exposed me to you as an individual, and you brought in your cultural experiences, and the knowledge you have about Africa was quite amazing. At some stage when I had to meet with him, I had to go through online and go do a little bit of reading about Canada because I knew he would know something about South Africa or any other African country that sometimes I don't even know. And that's I think, Amanda, I've just responded to one of your questions.
Yeah.
What makes international collaboration, you know. But anyway, so we then launched our book twice, and there's something beautiful about international collaboration because it has this sort of different audiences. In October, there was, the International Open Week, Open Education Week, and we saw an opportunity there. And as you can see, Eric there and the other gentlemen, we came in and we had a soft launch of our book because our book had already been scheduled to be launched at the ICDE conference in New Zealand in the following month. So you can imagine it was beautiful. Thank you so much, Prof.
Well, and then just again, this relates to Pressbooks.
Mhm.
So every couple years, this is sort of the mothership. It's called the International Congress in Open and Distance Ed. It was started in 1938. It's sponsored by the Norwegian government every 2 years. So this is what's exciting. Just that slide. And again, unfortunately, M. Puente couldn't be there, but the woman in the middle is her dean. It's her boss. And Kate is from
Mhm.
the University of Melbourne. But this is what's exciting because as we went through, Amanda and I have some similar interests, and one is sort of around Indigenous ways of understanding. And people knew I was sort of interested in that, and they go, "Hey, this guy actually knows how to work press books. They've got an account. He seems to do it." So it's a spin-off. I had somebody from India approach me. We've got an Indigenous author of that. So we're working on another collaboration based
Wonderful.
on, but you are too. And eventually
Mhm.
UNISA, with Amanda and Jen's help, eventually UNISA will have a Pressbooks account as well. Okay, we'll keep it moving here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. But I love the big screens that for me, it was like, wow, wow, there we are. And the book itself, it's a book with a global reach, with a strong African presence. You'll see, as you can see, that we've got, I think, two chapters from Canada. Prof, if I can't remember the numbers, it's not about
Sure.
the numbers, but we've got also contribution from the USA. We've got contribution from Australia, New Zealand, and also AUE. But the bulk of the contribution also comes from Africa, and not just mainly South Africa, but Africa. We've got Kenya, we've got Lesotho, we've got Zimbabwe, and mostly also South Africa. So it's a book. It's a book that has diverse voices. So if you want to know about e-portfolios in Africa, I think this is the resource you need to come. If you want to know about, I mean, Australia, New Zealand, USA, and all that, all Canada, you have been working with ePortfolios for years. We are coming in now, and we are coming in numbers, and this is an opportunity for more international collaboration. I'm putting it out there that in Africa, based on my research and my experience, that the intake of ePortfolios is very slow to close to none. So there's opportunities there. If you are here and you're thinking, wow, I want to do something like this, yes, there's an opportunity. Thank you, Prof.
But again, me interjecting, which
Mhm,
was so exciting. And again, I've been fortunate just through one of my children who lived in Nairobi for a few years. I sort of have a tiny sense what's going on. But M. Puente was so exciting. I hate using that word global north, but people in Canada, US, learning about what you're doing, and we don't have time for it, but just your concept of Ubuntu, sort of the indigenous
mhm,
ways of doing things. So I think it was empowering for both sides because, again, what I was exciting for, like you said, it's not all from UNISA. We have a number of African institutions and the collaborations, like, again, many voices together can make change. So it was exciting for me, but also then to reach out and have international colleagues to work on different
mhm.
research projects and things like that.
Beautiful.
Okay, beautiful. Yes, let's keep moving. Okay, over
No
to
problem.
next. Okay, over to you.
Yes, so these are just a sample of chapters that we thought would put a face behind the chapter, so you know that we didn't use AI to create this book. I'm joking there, but colleagues, really, the second chapter there was contributed by Muleboheng. Muleboheng is from UNISA, and then we've got one where uh, um, Christina Hupner, she's been very great, helping us with, making sure that this book is out there. People, we've had interviews, we've got webinars, I'm doing a keynote next week, also based on this work. So if there was an award to give, I would give it to her. But because she's actually putting our work, all of our 85 authors' work on the map for us. And she's doing great. And then we also have Kate and the colleagues that contributed to chapter 35. This is just to put a face behind the chapters. Prof, thank you so much.
And again, quickly, you can see that there's communities within communities. Again,
Mm,
chapter
mm,
three, those folks are located in three continents. So it was
mm,
so exciting for them to be able to get together. And again, um, just with this open access and with the Pressbooks format, I think it created the flexibility they needed. It wasn't so rigid where, once
mm.
you submit something, it's over. Because I love these people dearly, but it makes sense. When you have that many authors in, there's a lot of tweaks. But again, using Pressbooks, it was simple. It wasn't like it went to a paper, or I'll be honest, I've dealt
Mhm.
with e platforms that once it's in, there's no changes. Okay, we keep moving.
And when you say that your last statement, Prof, I mean practically, what it means is that we had one of the colleagues chapters, somebody questioned one of the images that they used, the credits they given there, and we went and investigated, and we were able, because our book is live and active, we were able to go in quickly, fix whatever needed to be fixed. Just last week, one of the colleagues said, you know what,
Yes,
I've given you an email address, but now I have moved to a new institution and I'd like to use that new email address. Can you put it up there in the book? And we did that. So that is one of the beautiful things about it. The press book
Pressbook.
that I love. Last slides from me, Amanda. The lessons that we have learned so far on this journey, it's about communication, planning, timelines, and the review process. And I'll read quickly. I think it's important that at the beginning, what we have learned that we must fully inform all our authors on the peer review expectations and timelines, and we must do this from the onset. Clear, detailed submission instructions must be communicated, and with all respect to our, because remember we had actually received about 84 at the beginning, 84 submissions, and eventually 47, I think, submitted. And then through the peer review process, we ended up with only accepting 43.
Hey,
So even,
oh, we're
mhm.
back. And Poetic,
So,
just your volume. Your headset.
oh,
There
okay,
you are.
it's
You're
it's
good.
on.
You're
It's
good. You're
Okay,
good now.
wonderful. Thank you so
We
much.
just, we
So,
love the passion in your voice.
so even with the clear submission instructions, Amanda, we still received a lot of other submissions that still needed, us to sit down and pre-screen before we can send for peer review. But it's important that you communicate clearly from the outset. And in terms of planning, plan ahead. And I'm sure Prof have already mentioned that I'm busy with another book now. It's actually books that I'm about 4 books that I'm busy with, and I'm taking all these lessons and I'm implementing them in my current then we were just going into it. We were just learning as we were going. It's important that you record and track key editorial dates consistently. And because it's important right now, if you were to ask us to give you evidence of peer review, evidence of quality assurance, we've got that information for you, and we are confident we can produce for you. And that is important, especially in academia. We want to make sure that the quality and credibility of your work, evidence can be produced. So you need to do that for yourself. And then we also, one of the things that Prof and I decided, I think it was Prof who came up with this, and that, you know what, we need to limit submissions to only 2 chapters per author, because we realized that, again, with book chapters, people see an opportunity and they just want to throw in everything that they have. And we want to have a diversity of voices. So we limited only 2 chapters per author. And also that we also requested that there must not be the first author in every chapter. So that was also wonderful. Yeah, Prof spoke about the review process. I think it's important that you maintain a double blind review from the beginning. It's important. Prof, you can go to the next slide. The challenges and the solutions, just in brief. So, because at the beginning, we realized that one of the challenges is that if you rely on manual system for managing your submissions, it's a headache. It's really a headache. And the solution for that is if you were to have, those collaborative automated platforms, which, established book publishers and journals, they do have, but unfortunately for me and Prof, we're working with Google Drive, which helped us, because if we were to work from our emails account, it would be a headache. So the Google Drive put everything in there, and then we were working together. We had access, and we could see who have worked on what and all that. We could see those logs. Again, as I said, using personal emails would have been a really editorial nightmare for us, because then we end up losing work, some of the contributions, and inconsistent tracking of review assignments and decisions also. So if you plan ahead, as I said earlier in the previous slide, then you have everything, and especially this is important because we are living in such a critical area where every piece of work you must produce evidence for it. So if you are inconsistent in tracking, your work and tasks and assignment, it also creates stress for you. You don't enjoy the project anyway. And so it's important that you implement a proper manuscript management system for full process transparency, and that you maintain a structured reviewer log with status, deadline. Oh, Prof. Nom was serious with this one. Sometimes I thought I can just do just do my notes here, and then he'll go back in one of the shared document and make sure he clean it up. And I was like, ooh, and that's the beauty of it again. We can hear that we enjoy working with each other, but there were challenges between us, how we approach certain things. And I had to learn, he also had to learn how Mpoentle does things, how Nom does things,
Yep.
and how we both as a team do things, because we had this book in our head. We want it to come out and we want it to be a success, not just for us and for those people who have contributed to it. So yes, thank you so much, Prof.
And I think, Amanda, we'll turn that over to you because I think we went a little longer. But again,
No, it was great.
just thanks to the whole Pressbooks team, because
Hmm.
I think we'll probably expand on some things through your questions. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back to you, Amanda.
Sure, thank you. Well, I mean, I was just very impressed. First of all, you're both incredibly dynamic, and I love listening to you both speak and talk about the collaboration, and just you can feel the energy of how this project came to be and also where it continues to go. There is one question I just wanted to actually that came up in the chat that I'd love to just in case this person has to pop off or anything. But the question is, what is the plan for phase two? Are we there yet? Getting other universities involved, etc.
So phase two, Amanda, is that phase two for like volume two of ePortfolio or what we're doing now with books? I'm just to clarify what they mean by phase two.
I think, and maybe if Tracy wants to add more in there, they can, but I think it's sort of like, what's next? Are you
Okay.
encouraging more collaboration? Is it
Well, let's go for
other?
Empoente is collaborating on a skyrocket level. So let's let her going. Yeah.
So yes, we definitely, Tracy. I could feel that is where you were going. Tracy, if you've got an idea that you think you, myself, Prof. Norm, and somebody can go into it now, Prof. Norm, I'm going to commit you. I think we are ready. We can bring
Yeah.
in our experiences and passion, and the more the merrier. I'm sure Pressbook would love that.
And so just with me, because I really give M. Puente credit because I think UNISA will get their own platform. And again, I really give Eric at my institution credit because I am sort of the main figure, but he was really wonderful at giving
Mm,
M. Puente editorial access. So
mm,
we're playing that forward now. I'm working with one of M. Puente's colleagues, Kirshni, who's the chair of the English department at UNISA. And this is the one we're doing the Indigenous ways of understanding in digital spaces. And again, what's really exciting, it's M. Puente, almost what M. Puente did. So not all, but some of the chapters, not just from the African continent, but other things, were either masters or doctoral students who were just finishing their studies. And what a wonderful way for them to be able to publish their research. And so we're doing this as well with Indigenous scholars. Tracy, Amanda, it's not directly related to your question, but it's quite interesting. This book I'm working on, Pressbook, same format, but it's interesting. The motivation is different. So with the book that we worked on, M. Puente, I think it's correct, we worked with 100% academics. And what I mean by that,
mm,
they were all um, full-time in academics at some sort of tertiary or higher education institution. The book we're reading right now is quite interesting because not everybody's there. We've got a number of people involved at nonprofits, and it's quite interesting. They're Indigenous scholars, their way of writing. It's been really fascinating for me, and I'm going to be careful what I say here because coming from the British Column, we have some good arguments about that. But it's fascinating when you get into publishing, what a colonial system it is, following AP and everything like
mm,
that. So
mm,
it's just interesting the way that we're weaving the next book and the motivation and the different things. But again, listen, it's always work, but and I think it's some fellow in Montreal, Hugh or something, that developed Pressbooks, but it really is amazing because M. Puente, I'm saying the same thing, Kirshni, because she really is much more technically advanced than I. Like
mhm.
the learning curve is just about flat for Pressbooks. Like she's just run with it. And I think that's exciting for me because, again, don't want to say where I am, but I am at the family cottage and I'd rather be doing other things right now than sitting in front of a computer all the time. So it's exciting. And her plan then is hopefully, the next generation, her doctoral students, some of them already have a tenure track positions everywhere else. So it's so exciting for me. It's that analogy, you throw a rock into a pool and you get those ripples. And just with M. Puente, it's just wonderful because she, again, M. Puente, I don't know how you do it. Not only does she work with students at scale, she works with books at scale. So, 43 chapters is overwhelming for
The
me, but
other day, the
how
other
many
day,
chapters
Amanda,
have, yeah,
the
go for
other
it.
day, he had to tell me, instruct me literally because I was exhausted. He said,
Yes.
importantly, go to rest. And
Yeah.
I did exactly that.
I just I'm at the no, okay. Anyway, Amanda, back to you. More questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is so exciting. And I can also see that, there's folks in the chat here who are also excited about what this could mean. And I think it also gives people ideas. It doesn't necessarily mean that, they need to participate in this particular project,
Mm,
but just
No.
to
mm, mm,
show what
mm,
global collaboration can look like. Um,
mm,
and and sort of with this collaborative editing feature within Pressbooks and this ability to be able to easily collaboratively edit and like you said, that learning curve is fairly flat in terms of trying to make sure you put content in and how you put it. The other I you kind of answered a lot of the questions within the chat. One thing I did want to sort of reiterate that you brought up is you talked about the author teams in particular. You had this team of like Eric and Taylor and
Yes.
all of these people. And so for people who I'd be curious if people at institutions, so what you're saying is involve your librarian, involve your
Yes.
copyright officer,
At the
um,
beginning, Amanda, at the beginning. Sorry.
at the beginning. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, yeah. And I guess my question is, what's the first outreach? Is it just reaching, what would you suggest for people? Just reach out and say this is what you want to work on?
And Amanda, again, N of one, I just can talk about my institutional. But again, I think everybody's so busy, and we've had our Pressbook license for a number of years. And I think it's been frustrating for the folks like who have managed our Pressbook account and everything is just how little uptake. And again, I'm not saying I was the guinea pig, but I hate to say it. If Norm can do it, everybody else's can do it. So you wouldn't believe the uptake. And I'll be honest, many of them have been international collaborations, but it's more, and I'm not saying Pressbook was set up for that, but it's to help to reduce the cost of textbooks
mm,
on our campus. And people were sitting on wonderful things. So a quick example, a fella, he was actually the dean out at Thompson Rivers. His name's Charlie Weber. And he's 72 years old and he wants to leave a bit of a legacy. And just at my institution, these first year courses are so core and so it's not quite an international project, but he's got all of us doing a chapter for our first year education book. And it's exciting to see someone with him because I'm not saying that we're old, because sometimes the older people are actually more willing to do it, but this is a bit of a legacy he did. And what's so exciting for him is the support he's getting. And our Fortunately, our department sits right into the library, and we have the best coffee shop in our whole institution. So we do a lot of this, we bring our laptops down. But Amanda, I can't emphasize that it's more than the technical. I don't know other institutions, but my gosh, institutional librarians know what's going on with this. And not just the publishing part, but the accessibility, the captioning, things like that. But also, it really is amazing. With me, I'm sorry, I'm always, copyright, am I going to get sued or whatever? But
mm,
they're so exciting just showing me the different things and reaching out and connecting with people, because again, a lot of people, it's wonderful just with this book. Like M. Puente mentioned, we needed to modify a figure a little bit. But I find if you reach out, and it's more than asking permission because you're actually featuring their work. And again, the wonderful thing is, in Pressbook, you can create links. So on figures and captions, you can actually link and go to the original source. So it really is, it's like creating a spider web of connections of collaboration. And for me, that's what's really exciting is that everybody feels empowered and part of the
mm,
project.
mm. Just to add the Prof. Dome,
Yes.
maybe even ask a question. I find that our librarians at UNISA, they often complain, maybe for a lack of a better word, that we are not using them enough,
Yes. Yes.
especially with the emergence of technologies and they've got skills that projects like this really can benefit from.
And again, you know, um, there's a curve there's a bit of work with everything, but I think people find it so exciting, empowering when you can put your own words there. I know there's a woman up at It's a university in Fort McMurray, Keano. She's put together her old, she wanted her own ed tech book, but she was able, again, with Pressbooks, getting, all these big people, Alex Koros, to borrow their work and put it in. And it was exciting for a lot of these people because they were actually able to re-edit some work that they'd published somewhere else. So again, I just love that we're playing forward. And I just love that you have people's voice. And again, I'm going to go on and on for a minute, but it's wonderful with this book. I haven't done it yet because I haven't taught that specific course. But again, you have access not just to the chapter, but the author as well. My experience, and Empointy, you can say like people like Kate, what other, it's more than just reading their chapter. You can get your students to communicate. Well, can you tell me a little more about what's happening at your institution with ePortfolios? So that's exciting for me. Like it really is a living document, not just that we can re-edit, but there's a human that's excited about their chapter, and it's exciting that somebody read it and somebody wants to know more. Over to you, Amanda.
Yeah, this is so great. And I'm just smiling because you just make it, yeah, you're just making it sound so lovely and awesome. And I mean,
It
it makes me
is.
excited. It is. And it makes me excited to want to like actually author my own work and do some of this work. So, but I want to pass it out to the audience too and give them a chance. If there's any questions that you might have, you can either raise your hand and give us an audio question, or you're welcome to put a note in the chat. There's a comment here from Don saying the energy and enthusiasm from you both is palpable. It is inspiring.